Yeah.
So in this example,
Thank you, Kanish from Mother.
so here, see several activities we have used already. The begin is the starting point of the workflow. So every workflow that we create will have beginning and end step and activity there. So you have it here. Then we were talking about notification, right? So you see this notification activity. Let's see into this notification activity, what properties we have set and whether we have used certain script or not to send this notification out to the users. Now this workflow that we have was for equipment request. So this run script activity is, when we open this, we can see that this run script activity is actually setting the approval state for our request to the equipment, our request for equipment. So let it open up, where we are actually setting the value of the approval field, right? By doing current.approval equals requested. You can see it here.
Yeah.
So just one script, current.approval equals requested. In this approval group, we identify which is the group who is supposed to approve this request, right? And what is the
Okay.
condition? What is the condition to launch this? Right? So you can see it load completely. So the condition for approval is, here in this case is that an approval from each group. So the number of groups we associate to this workflow, there should be one approval from each of these groups. So if there is one approval from just one approval from each of these groups which are associated to it, then the request will be deemed as approved. And the condition that we made was the cost of the equipment should be greater than $500. So that comes from the workflow itself. So you have it here. Then after it is approved or rejected, so when it is rejected, we set the approval state to rejected. So which will be a script here down below, which sets current.approval equals rejected, right? If it is approved, the state will be saved as current.approval equals approved. You can see it here, approved, right? And after it is rejected or approved, you have an email notification here. So let's say in the case of rejection, we have this email notification activity coming up here. So I can open this one. And on rejection, what we have done is we have created this email notification, and that contains, see, the addressee to the email will be my email. So I am the addressee. The email will be sent to me along with the analyst group, right? So everybody who is there into the analyst group will also receive an email whenever this request is rejected, right? And then I identified the email template or the email content, whatever I wanted to send as part of that email. I have written that into the email message, right? To send that email notification, you need to use the email notification activity in this way, right? Similarly, after this request was approved, I created a procurement task. For that, I used a task activity here, which will create a priority one task into the task table, right? And the task will be created for a particular group or a person. So the person to whom the task will be created is Rahul Rakesh, and he hails from the capacity management group. So we identified that the person from the capacity management, Rahul from the capacity management group, has to be assigned this ticket, right? And he will take care of this ticket, and he will process the ticket and do the procurement for it, right? And when this task gets created, a notification has to be sent to the user who, or when it is completed, when the procurement has been completed, this email notification has to be sent out to the user that the procurement has completed, and then finally this procurement ends, the workflow ends, right? So notification, all in all, the notification engine, the workflow engine that you were talking about that worked on the insertion of a record into the table, you can do it the same way, right? The notification activity here, use it, you can send that email out with this notification activity. For demonstration, I'll use the marketing event application, go to equipment request and create a request. Let's say I am ordering furniture, right? And the cost of the furniture is, let's say, $10,000. I have a bigger set of audience coming in, so I'll need it starting from today and until 16th. The marketing event that I have is, let's say I am going to do the Sydney LUG marketing event, and the task number created is this, and I'm going to submit this. Oh, I'm sorry, the dates are swapped slightly. It did not create, so I'll have to change. Furniture 10,000, needed until will be 16th, needed from is 5th, marketing event is Sydney LUG, and I'm going to submit this now. It will be saved. We have this furniture record created here. Both the records are into the requested state, right? Now, as I was part of the analyst group, this might have come under my approvals. I need to approve it because I as a system administrator is a part of the analyst group as well. So I go here, I check my approvals, I see that this has come from approval to me, and then I open this request, and you may see that when I created that request, an email
So
was.
I actually, Rahul, that was my question. I understand that workflow
Uh-huh.
and the email notification, but how that workflow knows that that I mean how the workflow triggers when there isn't some activity on that table, or is that the default behavior that if we update, insert, or delete something from that table, like all CRUD operations, that workflow should execute. I mean that execution condition where we haven't defined it, so it is by default.
We
Actually,
have
that's what I
defined it.
wanted to know.
We have defined it. You have to see it. Let me show you.
Yeah, that is the new workflow. No, yeah, yeah. So if you go on that line,
Okay.
mm,
What is this? Why the menu is not coming?
Yeah, for me it's coming. So I think there is an issue with the.
I just
I
closed
need
it.
to.
I don't know, something has happened.
Maybe on the right side you see core packs, custom data. There it has
No,
fallen.
no, no, it doesn't matter for that. It doesn't matter. Workflow validation. Let me see.
No, no, no. There is one information come Rahul that this your workflow is out of scope. Yeah, publish out of scope workflow version belongs to
I got it. I get it. I need to change the application. I didn't see that. I didn't see that notification somehow. No, I'll get it. See, you will have this information in properties.
Hmm.
This workflow, when we create it, see, yesterday you were talking about, you were trying to compare it with the CA workflow, and then you had a
Hmm.
confusion. Why are we associating tables when we
Hmm.
create workflow, right?
Hmm.
See, tables are associated to applications we create. Do you agree?
Hmm. Yes.
Right? And this workflow that I'm going to create, this is specific to the equipment request application.
Hmm.
Agree? Agree? So
Correct.
what we are doing is, we created a workflow, and then we associated it to equipment request application by associating it to the equipment request table. So when we associate this to equipment request table, when CRUD happens and when CRUD happens and the condition for the workflow matches, this will get triggered. Does it make sense? This workflow will get
Yeah.
triggered when this condition matches, and this condition will match whenever you do certain operation on the table. So you do any of these CRUD operations on the table, then it will check whether the kicking condition, the trigger condition for that workflow is meeting or not. If it is not meeting,
Hmm.
it will simply skip. It will not call the workflow at all, right? If
Okay.
it is meeting that condition that we supplied there, then it will call the
Hmm.
workflow. That is why I showed you that example. See, into the equipment request, into the marketing application, in the equipment request, the state changes to requested, and the state value we set up into this run script activity that we created here. The state changes to requested whenever we request a equipment which is having
Hmm.
value of more than $500. Now if I go and create one equipment request, sample equipment, and put a value of $10 to it, right? And then save it. Sample equipment is the equipment that we are creating. When submitting this
Hmm.
request now, scroll down, see, has the approval changed to requested? Not, it hasn't. Why it hasn't changed to requested? Because the workflow condition doesn't match this time. What is the workflow condition? Let's look at the property of the workflow. We created this workflow. On the very first screen, we defined the condition for that workflow. What is the condition? Go to the condition tab, scroll down and see the
Mm-hmm.
condition. The condition is, if condition matches, run this workflow. Only run this workflow when the cost is greater than $500. In this
Okay.
example,
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
cost is $10, which does not match the condition, so this workflow will not launch.
Right. So if we have to add a condition just to insert a record and send a notification, it means we don't have to add a condition there. That's what it means, right?
Right. So the condition could be you have to always run this workflow, so you do not put a filter condition there, right? If you have to always execute this workflow, there is no condition, so you will not put any condition there. The workflow will launch all the time. Does it
No,
make
no.
sense?
Yeah, that is always okay. So where is always condition? Yeah.
Always is not a condition. You do not have to put any condition. So if I create this workflow
Mm-hmm.
and if I leave this condition field blank,
Mm-hmm.
so see the
It
condition.
will always.
Run the workflow,
Mm-hmm.
run if no other workflow match yet. So if I leave it,
Mm-hmm.
right, run the workflow, so it will always
Mm-hmm.
run. It will not look for any condition. It will always run. In any case, it has to run.
Okay. And then we can handle the condition inside the workflow.
Right. So then you can put some, see if you want to, from the core activities, you can do conditional checks. If, switch,
Okay.
wait for WF event, etc. Right. But see, it's always good to have the top level validation done first, and then you go and do, intermediate level validations using the activities, etc. Right.
Mm.
So, so this property
No,
that,
actually,
yeah,
yeah, I understand. I understand that condition we have to add so that it should trigger on that particular condition. So it's like we are adding that if condition when that script when that workflow should run. So the condition I have is here. I am sending one email notification that the record get inserted into the project table, or if it is update, then I will send another notification which is a different notification that project get updated, that particular project get updated. So if we go to the same workflow and in the same condition there, I cannot um, I cannot I mean if I haven't give the condition there, it means it will always run, but inside the workflow I have to write a logic that I have to make sure, okay, whether record is inserted or whether record is updated, and I have to check inside the workflow,
see,
correct?
now let me clarify one thing to you. The condition
Hmm.
that you were saying that upon creation of a record, you want to send an email notification, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your use case didn't talk about having a workflow in place, and workflow was, and if you remember, we talked about it's a multi-step process having approvals as well in consideration, right? But when you talk of creating a record into the table or updating a record into the table and sending notification on that insertion or updation event, you never talk about workflow there, right? So the thing is, you might already have created notifications using email notification that we did earlier, right? See, so for creation, updation, you have done that. Now, the need for having a notification activity within workflow is that depending upon certain situations or the behavior of the activity that you are doing as part of your business process, if you want to send out intermediate email notifications right from the workflow, then you have to have this notification activity within place, right? Just for sending out emails on certain CRUD activities, you can use this email
Mm-hmm.
notification from here. Workflow is the decider. It is deciding within the business process whether you want to send certain email related to certain business activity that you are doing, then you have this
So,
notification.
so that use case is not for the workflow. That's what you are saying.
Yeah,
We
your
have to
use
use the
case,
different.
your use case, you can get that, you know, executed by having the notification in place. You do not need that workflow for that, sending out emails in that use case. That use case does not require, that does not call for a workflow in place just to send out email notification.
Okay. But then, Rahul, can we do the uh, database checks using glide record inside the workflow?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So these run script blocks that you see, so this is capable of handling a script, right? Let me quickly get some sample scripts from wiki that will show you the workflow related scripts. So within this run script, like this is also a single line script that you see here, current.approval equals requested or approved, right? So this is one line script. You can put your glide record query here within this script window, and that script can do some certain activity. Workflow script. Let me open up a sample workflow script for you. So these are, you know, some kind of workflow objects that you have here that contains different types of methods, right? And you can use that method within the script section of the workflow. I'm looking for a glide record that you might use. Glide record in workflow. This you are not interested right now. Oh. You can use the complete query here, right? For example, let's do this. Within the run script that we have, let's put a insertion query whenever this request is created, we may go and update a field into the table. Okay, so you can put a glide record query here. That is, you know, that is not a proper use case though, because we are just updating the table by doing current dot approval. But if you have to update it, so hmm, glide record. We don't have an example here, so maybe we can write our own glide record script. Let me open this. Sorry. So let me quickly put this one. So we checked out. A very vague example, just to show that it will work. I'm using this very meaningless example because I cannot think of any other use case right now. So on request approved, when the request is approved, we are running this script, or why to go there. We can put that in equipment requested stage. So let's scroll down. I'll cut this script from here. On the very first run script that we have here, okay, so we have that script into the run script section here. Now let's publish this. We just published. Now what we need to do is I'll open the incident table on one hand, and the marketing event application on the other hand. I'll open the equipment request, and something like 3D camera, $560. It says create operation on the table incident from a scope marketing event application was granted and added to marketing event application cross scope privilege. This message is quite obvious, and it says that I tried to create a record into the incident management application which is in global scope from the marketing event application, right? So which is a correct message, but then our record must have been created there into the system. Let's see. Equipment requested. Oh, I'm sorry. I did it wrong. I put the value into the display value for the caller ID. should have I should have seen that. I should have updated the short description field instead of the caller ID field. So right from the workflow, I was able to create a record into the incident table, right? So I did it. I did it wrong. I did it in caller ID. So I should have done something else. Let's say I'm doing a double tutor, and right now we save this. Short description, display value is able tutor. I think the spelling is wrong. I don't know. Now go back and create a new equipment request. This has been published. And from here, I'm going to create a new equipment request. Value should be more than $500, just because we need to trigger the workflow to match the workflow condition. And You submitted it. When we submit this, an incident record has been created here, and here in this incident form, in the list of record from the incident table, you may see the incident record has been created and it says this is a request created from marketing event application workflow. Right? So this shows that the run scripts that are available in the workflow can be utilized to use certain scripts to create a record into the table. Right? Now this activity that we just did didn't make any sense to have it done there. But then for the sake of example we just did it. Right? What I did is I created a glide record. I did glide record insert onto the incident table and had these values filled in into the record that I was creating. Right? And when I did, this record was created here and you can see the record and the values here. Right? Does it make sense, Anand?
Yeah, yeah, it
Clarifies your
makes.
query?
Yes. Yep. Yes.
Now, this is not the only use case that we can do, not just the scripting that is capable. Now, let's say we just inserted the incident table from this run script, but then you are asked to create a record into the .NET application that you have right from the workflow. Can you do that? Yes, you can. You can create appropriate objects of the different classes available into ServiceNow that are used to access web services, etc. right from the run script. Create the object of it, pass the necessary values, and then create a record into the remote application, the third-party application, .NET application, or any other application, for example, which is capable of handling web services. You use that script within this run script, right? So this workflow will allow to issue those statements for creation of record or updating a record or deleting a record from a third-party system, right? So you can do that.
Can we just tweak this one? Just use the sub workflow calling through this, and we call our script inside the sub workflow.
Yes, we can do that too. So for that, we'll have to create a server flow. Uh, let's do that tomorrow, Anand. I have a hard stop at 8, so we will not be able to
Okay.
finish it. So we'll try to create a sub workflow, and then we'll try to put it there into our workflow and write some script to do certain activities.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I hope I am able to make you understand the concept of workflow. It's really very easy. It's untraditional. So like you have the things in CA, it's different to that. But the things that you are actually, the queries that you have are actually, those queries are resolved into the workflow properties itself. So if you open the workflow property and you see, this answers most of your queries that you had. Right? The information about the workflow, the conditions when it will run, what are the inputs that it will need, what are the activities that you are going to include into this, what application it is related to, and if it is related to certain application, it must be related to some table as well. And you define the condition when this workflow should run on that table. If you have scheduled this workflow or not, you can schedule this workflow as well. You do not have to wait for creating a equipment request and going through all those processes. What if all those requests which were not part of the workflow when it was created earlier, what if we want to run workflow for those requests as well? Can you schedule those workflow for these requests, right? Some of these requests has cost more than $1,000. Right? Can you schedule this workflow and launch this workflow for those records which were created already? Yes, you can think of scheduling this workflow, which will, browse through all the requests and on a specified duration, filter out the records and launch the workflow and go through all the activities contained into the workflow. Right? and then it gives you information about the estimated runtime of the workflow that you have created. So stuff like that. So most of the questions that you had are answered into this one. Right? Now, what is important is if you go through the workflow, you will see different activities that are being used into it. Okay? Our idea should be to be familiar with almost all types of activities that we see here. You see here, we also have this core activity of Amazon and Amazon C2, EC2. Why do we have this? When you start working on ServiceNow, you will get requirements like why not interface ServiceNow with Amazon EC2 instance or Microsoft Azure or Rackspace or SharePoint or Salesforce and interact with those systems and get your information to and fro from those systems, right? So using these kind of components, you will actually write your workflows to interact with them. um, on the other hand, you will write web services or consume web services from all those applications into your ServiceNow instance using your web services designer or web services, components or applications modules available, right? So it's important for us to understand what type of interfacing we can do using workflows, using web services, using other components, using business rules, and how we can use all those components into our application at different areas, and where we should do what activity, what component we should be using for a particular requirement. For example, you were sending out email notification and you tried to do that into the workflow, right? For that use case, you didn't require this workflow to send out emails, right? All you wanted to do is to send out emails whenever a CRUD operation was done on a particular table. You do not need a workflow for that. That you can do from the email notification, where you identify the table and identify the operation on which you want to send out that email, right? The email notification that you
Yeah.
send out from the workflow is part of the workflow and gets sent out on certain business activities performed by the business pro that we have into the workflow here.
I got it. Yeah, I got that part.
Okay, so let's
Yeah.
uh, let's do that tomorrow, the sub workflow, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll try to put some script. I'll come prepared. I'll write a sub workflow, and then we'll
Mm-hmm.
show you how we can
Yeah.
use.
Rahul, I'm looking at that workflow. I have uploaded that XML, but I don't see the workflow in the workflow editor though. I have to publish that update set or what? And what I have to do?
When you have imported the update set, then you have to save that update set. I think it's save or publish. You will have that option available there. You may like to see. When you do that,
When you do that,
that application will
that
appear
application will appear
into your
into your
application navigator, and then it should be available into your uh, application workflow editor as well.
okay.
Okay. Okay, guys. I need to stop here, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, bye.
Kumaran, if you can join early tomorrow, 7. So we'll save
Yeah,
five
yeah,
ten minutes.
actually,
Please be on time.
yeah, 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 I will be on time. Running on the network issues. I try to
No problem.
connect. That's why.
No problem. Thank you, Kumaran.
10 minutes. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.